Ladies and gentlemen, one thing that you can't deny in history is the huge contribution Black people have made around this globe, especially in places like America and in the UK. And despite all of our efforts, you got this generation today that's trying to deny we did anything. You know, the very same generation that is cheating and getting caught in scams, and the same generation running around here talking about high IQs. They probably group cheated on that too, ladies and gentlemen. I bet you if we really did digging, they didn't even pass that legitimately. Plus, not to mention that IQ test had to be revised multiple times before they could even pass it. So, but these are the generations. The generation of cheaters and scammers are trying to tell us what we didn't do. Go figure, right? So over in UK, our brothers and sisters across the pond also dealing with the same types of issues that we're dealing with. You have a generation that is denying their hard efforts and made UK what it is today. So we have UK's Windrush Generation and what the scandal is about. So this came out about a year ago in Al Jazeera, and then I'm going to follow it up with an article that came out just this month. So let me go ahead and play the video.
More than 50 years ago, his father had a job in the post office. Michael married in Britain, had children, grandchildren, worked in education, thought he was British, until the government told him he didn't have the right documents. He lost his job as he fought for the right to stay here.
If I was deported, I didn't know what I would do. To take someone out and just throw them out, like if they had no worth, because that is what they're doing. You know, it's about worth, what you've produced and what you've done to help Britain be the better place than it was.
This is the arrival of more than 400 happy Jamaicans.
The so-called Windrush Generation, named after a ship that carried the first arrivals from the Caribbean in 1948. Invited to Britain, given citizenship. It's many of the children who travelled with their parents who are now facing difficulties. Some have been caught out by strict new laws specifying documents they need to prove how long they've been here.
This row could not have blown up at a more embarrassing time for the British government, the very week in which it hosts the Commonwealth Summit, in which it's busy emphasising its friendship with former colonies as it prepares to leave the EU.
Ministers told Parliament they're trying to repair the damage with a special team to help the Windrush Generation, a promise to resolve their cases quickly, free of charge, although the government isn't sure whether some people have already been deported in error.
Can she tell the House how many have been detained as prisoners in their own country? Can she tell the House how many have been denied health under the National Health Service? How many have denied pensions? How many have lost their job? This is a day of national shame.
Mr. Speaker, I share the Honourable Gentleman's admiration for the people who came here from the Caribbean and contributed so much to our society in many, many different ways, and that admiration remains in place. I am concerned that the Home Office has become too concerned with policy and strategy and sometimes lose sight of the individual.
But who was in charge of the Home Office when these new, stricter policies were being designed? Yes, today's Prime Minister, Theresa May. So, as the public outcry grows, there's now a political as well as moral imperative to treat the Windrush Generation fairly. Barnaby Phillips, Al Jazeera, London.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the effort that was made by these people that actually furthered the UK, this generation. What is the Windrush Generation? The Windrush Generation refers to immigrants who were invited. The UK invited these people to come and help. Okay? If you look at the timing when they came into the UK, it was not long after World War II ended. They needed a lot of help. Now, all of you that claim to be so capable and you don't need Black folks and blah, 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 how come the history doesn't show you didn't need us? How come the history don't show it? How come the history shows the same thing over and over and over? And it does in this case too. So they arrived in the UK, as you saw in the video, in 1948 and 1971. They were still bringing these people in from the Caribbean countries like Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, and Barbados. All right, so the Windrush Generation, or name, derived from the ship they were traveling on, and it docked for the first time on June 22nd, 1948, in Tilbury, Essex, over in the UK, and it had 500 Jamaicans. Now, these immigrants came by invitation of the British government, which was facing a labor shortage. Remember, this was not long after World War II. So it was a lot of lives lost over in Europe, 60 million. Okay. And they needed to rebuild the country because they had so few people and they couldn't do it themselves. They reached out to these folks over in the islands that weren't impacted by the war and had them brought in to help in the rebuilding of the UK. And not only did they help build it up, the British were able to bounce back after these folks came and start helping. And then in return, they started treating them like crap, sort of like here in America. Those that help them, they hate. And you see the same thing happened over in the UK. These folks came, they helped around and start hating them. It just makes you wonder, are these folks worth helping? No. History says no. And I think we have to all start adopting that kind of attitude, especially when we see these things happening, not only here in the US, which we've seen for centuries, but in other places like the UK. Now, what is happening to them? A scandal over the treatment of members of the Windrush Generation has been mounting in recent months, and the multitude of reports have come out about mostly elderly people being denied services, losing their jobs, and even facing deportation. This is how they treat the people that helped them rebuild after World War II. Very unappreciative, very undeserving, and not even worthy of the help they received. Many of the Windrush Generation had arrived as children on their parents' passport, and although they have lived in Britain for decades, paying taxes, insurance, they never formally became British citizens. And ladies and gentlemen, technically, Black people in America are not citizens either. Okay, you better go look at that Constitution. Technically, we're not citizens. And that's another thing these people, as you can see, it's a sneaky thing they do. They get you to help and pay taxes out in their society, and they want you to assimilate, and they want all of this without even treating you like a citizen. And you see the same thing happen to the Windrush Generation. Amid the tightening of immigration rules, an estimated 50,000 long-term UK residents could now be facing problems. Among them is Michael Brightwaite, who arrived from Barbados when he was 9, more than 50 years ago, thinking he was British. So he applied for a passport and they did not recognize him as a citizen. And what a damn shame. And that's when his problems began. You saw in the video. So he lost his job at a school where he was working at for 15 years. See, it's okay to give your labor and do your job and pay taxes, but at the end of the day, if you were part of that generation that helped them build the UK after World War II, they hate you. Doesn't this sound familiar to all Black Americans? It should, because it's really the same thing. Okay, so it just goes over what he's talking about, what has been the reaction, and you saw some of the footage in Parliament. You know, and I mean, let's face it, it is really inhumane what they have done to these people. It really is. You know, this generation that's around now, they have been treated so badly over there in the UK, it's not even funny. And like you see over here in America, we have been here for centuries, and the immigrants coming into the country that haven't even been here a split second get better treatment than we do. So you mean to tell me our work for centuries in America takes a backseat to an immigrant that barely speaks English and out here working and haven't put in the hard work that Black Americans put in? Woo, man. Yeah, this whole globe needs to go up in flames as far as I'm concerned. Now, these are the countries that were part of the meeting that they had over there. You had Antigua. The list is here. I'm just going to point you all to this article. I'm not going to get too deeply into it because it was really most of this was in the video. So I just wanted you to see this and see how our bad treatment is global. Okay, wherever these folks exist, we are going to get treated badly in those places. Plain and simple. Wherever we help them build up a nation or build an infrastructure, that's where we're going to be treated badly. This is just what these folks do. This is an article that came out in April 4th, 2019. And I'm happy to see this. And in the UK, the Windrush victims receive 200 million in compensation. And they should. They should. These people have been through hell at the hands of a very ungrateful UK. This is why I say in many of my videos, just looking over the history here and talking about this story, if another war breaks out, Black people, the only thing you need to do is sit out. Sit out of it. You know, since these folks have ran around here for the greater part of their lives talking about we didn't do nothing, we didn't invent nothing, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. The next time a war breaks out, sit out on that war. Sit out. I promise you, they will not win. They will not win. They haven't won one war without us. And you can easily make this a reality for everybody to see if Black people would just sit out on the next declared war. Sit down. Sit on the sidelines and let the high IQ cheating class of people go out there and do all the fighting. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.